Bem-vindo, Marco. Welcome, Marco.
Muito obrigado, muito obrigado. Um saúdo de Jerusalém. Eu não falo muito português, mas você vai entender. Vou falar inglês com o seu permisso.
Não há nenhum problema. Vou só aqui trazer para a audiência. I'm going to say who you are to the audience, just in brief.
Okay.
So, Marco Alexander is based in Jerusalem, in the capital of Israel. Let's highlight that.
In the capital of the world, I might add.
Capital of the world, yeah. Sorry about that.
After Brazil.
After Brazil, exactly, yeah. So Marco is also a podcaster. I was in his podcast Christians for Israel for Italy, and I'm going to just say that not to the people in Portuguese. So Marco Alexander é podcaster também. Ele participa de podcast chamado Cristãos para Israel em Itália. Eu tive a grande honra de ser convidado desse podcast. O Marco é metade irlandês, metade italiano. Trabalha como guia turística em Israel, trabalha com pessoas de vários quadrantes e certeza que terá muitos insights interessantes sobre como as pessoas veem Israel visto de fora e após visitar o país. Portanto, acho que seria muito interessante perguntar ao Marco qual é a transformação das pessoas após conhecerem Israel. Portanto, o Marco poderá dar uma ideia de Israel e também dos turistas, da maneira como eles mudam após conhecer Israel com os seus próprios olhos e não só através da televisão e dos mídias. Portanto, acho que o Marco será uma grande mais-valia para esta sessão.
Yeah, Marco, you're welcome. Allora, tu sei nato qua in Italia o sei nato in...
A dire il vero, io sono nato in Irlanda da madre italiana e padre inglese. E poi diciamo che nel 2002 ho fatto l'Aliyah per... Shall I speak in English or in Italian?
Yeah.
I suffer from split personality.
You're not the only one. Don't worry.
Okay. So I'll speak in English. Okay. So I was actually born in Ireland to an Italian mother and an English father. And prior to coming to Israel, to making Aliyah is when a Jew returns to the land of Israel. Okay, there's a particular process whereby a bureaucratic process as well, whereby a Jew returns to the land of Israel. Okay, so getting back to my life story, we can divide my life into thirds: a third in Ireland, a third in Italy, in Genoa, Italy, prior to that Dublin, Ireland, and now Jerusalem, Israel. That's basically my life story in a nutshell.
I'm sorry, Marco. Are you Jew?
I'm Jewish, yes.
Okay. Let me ask you one question.
You're not sorry I'm Jewish.
I thought you was a priest, a Catholic
priest. I look very
humor.
Yeah.
I look very pious. I realize
that. Let me ask a question, especially because I'm living in Spain, and Spain is a very Catholic country. I think they misunderstand most of things about Jewish people, and I have a Catholic friends, which we have huge debates regarding what's going on in Israel. But one thing they throw into my face is about the Orthodox Jewish. They in their opinion, the Orthodox Jewish chase Catholic people or Christian in Israel. What I think is a lie, is a propaganda.
It's mostly a lie. There have been very isolated incidents, okay? Very, very isolated incidents. Very. 0.001. Nobody has a monopoly on idiots. Okay, so we do have the odd idiot, okay, but most of the Orthodox community, they're very nice people and they're very welcoming. Okay, and when you have the opportunity of coming to Israel, you'll be able to see that for yourself.
No, my question is because I know that is a propaganda against Jewish people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, if something very minor happens, it's blown out of proportion. That's not to excuse the very minor actions. I'm aware of them myself. But I personally, bringing around tourists, have never encountered this, okay, with the Catholic and Protestant groups that I guide. But I know there have been incidents, and some have been uploaded to YouTube, but they're very minor, okay? There haven't been any pogroms, I can assure you, and the Christian community in Israel is very integrated into Israeli life. We have Christian members of parliament, of the High Court, with important ranks in the Israeli army. So the Christian community is a very well integrated community in Israel.
So Marco, I just going to ask you. You talk to a lot of people, as tourists. I mean, not only tourists, but you talk to a lot of tourists based on the nature of your job. So I would like you to tell stories of people, if you heard, which I'm sure you did, who got to Israel with an image. Then when they were there, they saw something else, and when they left, they realized that what the media is telling is just nonsense. Is it something that you encounter, and can you share with us?
Absolutely, you raise a very good point. In fact, when people come here, they get a totally different impression to the distorted one, which is offered by the media in most Western countries. So yes, it is indeed a transformational process. People go back to their countries, and if the tour guide does a decent job, they go back as ambassadors for Israel. Okay, I set myself these tasks. The tourists, upon their return, should be ambassadors for Israel. Here they see a very different reality. They see that the lies about discrimination, about apartheid, and all this absolute nonsense is false. Okay, and indeed they see and they become aware of the slanderous nature of the media in their home countries. And indeed, we can say that the media very often is part of, I call it a media judiciary academic complex, which creates this atmosphere of hatred towards the Israel and indeed by extension the Jewish people.
I don't know if you know something about Marco, but there is a question here on the chat about the Abrahamic family house in Dubai, built last year. Do you know something about that? Or?
Yes, I've heard about it. It's the initiative of the government. It's a very commendable issue. I don't know whether it's functioning or not, but certainly one can only view it in a positive sense, especially in a generally hostile world, which is the Muslim world at the moment. So perhaps there's a little beam of light coming from the Muslim world. If something can change in the Muslim world, that would be a very welcome change.
Do you think the people of Israel have a conscience of the gravity of their situation, surrounded by enemies on all the sides and our public opinion against? What do you see?
Okay, so one has to say that the 7th of October was a watershed, okay? A watershed when finally the chickens came home to roost. I, as many other people, have always argued that giving territory, facilitating a so-called Palestinian state would only bring disaster. Any territorial concession would bring disaster. Any absence of Israel from territories that Israel gained control of during the 1967 war would be a disaster, an unmitigated disaster. One has to only understand the real nature of Palestinism. Palestinism isn't interested in another state. It is interested in the destruction of the Jewish presence in the land of Israel.
Perfect.
Okay, this is the essence of the problem. In fact, I would say, in terms of gravity, it is as serious as the Nazism which developed in Europe in the 1930s. We have the same phenomenon, not the same phenomenon, but there's something of the same gravity in the Muslim world. And now, unfortunately, it's not only the Muslim world, because they've spread their tentacles right into the centers of Western civilization. You see this, for example, financing of faculties and universities, corrupting the media in the various countries. We know the sources of this. It's not a mystery. Okay, so this is not only a danger for Israel, it's a danger for Europe and indeed, by extension, the Western and Judeo-Christian world. Let's put it that way. And one shouldn't forget either, it is the greatest danger to decent Arabs themselves. Palestinism is a poison for well-meaning Arabs.
Question. I assume you come often here to Italy, and I live here in the north of Italy, in Venice, in Veneto. No?
So we must meet.
Yeah, I hope so. Like, but here there is some kind of Muslim community, right? And I see the Muslim community here in my city. It's a small city, 4,000 people, a really small city, and there's a small Arab community here, and I see the Arab community and also the left-wing supporters. You know, people who vote to PD and to all this Cinque Stelle and all this left-wing.
I'm very familiar with them. I can assure you, I'm very familiar with them.
Exactly. So they are like together against the Israel, and sometimes I have even small conflict of ideas here because I'm a Christian. I'm completely pro-Israel, and I can't accept like Italians supporting terrorists.
Indeed, indeed.
Like, how you feel about that? Like when you come here to Italy and all over Europe, do you think anti-Semitism is coming over again?
Oh, absolutely. I feel very much as we're in a 1930s scenario, to be honest. Now, whereas before the Second World War, it was mostly the right which fueled anti-Semitism. Let's say the right. I think it's a little bit of a simplification. And I believe in the post-war period, it is the left in Europe which has become the motor of anti-Semitism. And it is the marriage of the doctrine of the Muslim Brotherhood with Soviet methods of propaganda that have generated this monster, which we know as Palestinism. Okay, the left in Israel, in Italy, wasn't always pro-Arab. In fact, up until the 1950s, you could even read in the communist newspaper L'Unità pro-Israel articles. The so-called Fedayeen were considered a bunch of criminals in the early 50s. Things changed with the Suez Crisis during the course of the Cold War, when the Soviet Union practically decided to throw its weight behind the Arab world in their great genocidal project. So that's when things changed began to change in the left in Europe, to all intents and purposes. And it's only got worse. And it's only got worse as we see the new left, which took off in the 1960s, the postmodernists, the deconstructionists, many Jews among them, many left-wing Jews among them, by the way. It has to be said, okay? Truth be told. But anyway, it's a story that is repeating itself. It is it's probably the most virulent form of anti-Semitism that we've seen since the 1930s. There is one thing I'd like to add, by the way, with your permission, of course. Palestinism permits people who have anti-Semitism, who harbor anti-Semitic notions and sentiment, to recycle their anti-Semitism by using the anti-Zionist formula. Okay, so this is one of the tricks, let's say the sleight of hand that they use. Okay, they say they're anti-Zionist and not anti-Semitic. Okay, so Palestinism plays this little trick, which many people fall.
Comment on top of yours that we can tell that they don't only hate Jews in Israel when they hate Jews all over the world. The things that happen in the US, it tells that it's not about what happened in the Middle East. It's a thing towards Jewish people as such.
Indeed. I do follow to some extent events in Brazil, and certainly you have not been blessed with Mr. Ignacio Lula da Silva. It seems to be.
Yeah, and Lula da Silva is a great supporter of Hamas and Hezzbolah.
Indeed.
He was a great friend of Arafat.
Yes, indeed. There quite a few were. You see, the problem is when you get involved in an illicit relationship, it's very hard to turn back, you see.
Exatamente, gente. Eu estava lembrando aqui para o Marco as conexões do condenado Lula da Silva, e não só o Lula, né, gente? Toda a esquerda, o Boulos, todo esse pessoal, Maria do Rosário, todo esse pessoal apoia tudo que não presta no mundo. É Nicolás Maduro na Venezuela, é Hamas em Israel, é a Kamala Harris lá nos Estados Unidos. Tudo que não presta, a esquerda apoia. É impressionante. Marco, è stato un piacere. You're welcome to come here to join us another time.
Un grandissimo piacere. Quando vuoi, Vitor ti può dare tutti i miei dettagli e possiamo certamente fare qualcosa.
Bravo. Now I let you with a final message, and we will conclude our live today.
Oh, you'd like me to close things?
Yeah. Make the closing. Leave your
arousing speech. Well.
Make your propaganda if you want to.
My propaganda. Well, I'll quote the Bible. I have to quote the Bible that the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps, and that at the end of the day, he's going to bring us home. Of course, it depends on our partnership. Okay, we have to do our part, but we've seen this film before. Put it that way, and we're going to pull through. And the crisis presents an opportunity, and we'll come out stronger at the other end.